Hey, welcome to Broken World Entertainment. So, a brand new Quantum Leap has dropped. This show is a direct sequel to the original Quantum Leap. It's also somewhat of a reboot, but it starts off telling you that in 1995, theorizing that one could time travel within their own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap Accelerator and vanished. He vanished. Dun dun dun. After years of attempting to bring him home, the project was abandoned. Until now. Oh my. So we are then immediately introduced to all of our new characters. All of them. There's our main guy whose name is Ben Song. His fiance, named, I don't know anyone else's name, can't remember. Ernie Hudson, who's in it. He's the boss. That non-binary actor from Sandman and Bebop, Cowboy Bebop. I was going to say Bebop and Rocksteady, Ninja Turtles. And a little Asian girl who is, well, woman, who is the head of security. And that's funny because she literally couldn't reach a tin of beans on a top shelf. But we're going to believe she's the head of security. So it starts off with them at a party, a engagement party. And Ben gives a speech about how particles and stuff come together even though over great distances. And then he kind of just looks weary, and then all of a sudden, there he is, jumping into the accelerator and leaping. You're like, oh, okay. That happened out of nowhere. And he's immediately in a van. He wakes up in a van, not sure what he's doing. A guy says, right, this is it, let's go. He's like staring at the guy and he's like, what's going on? The guy puts on a balaclava and pulls out a handgun and goes running out, and he's like, what the hell? Then looks at himself in the mirror, sees a white dude. By the way, Ben is Asian. Sees a white dude and he's like, what the hell is going on? Gets out of the van, he's like looking around, and he's in 1985. It's either 85 or 86. Band Aid is happening. Or Live Aid, sorry. Band Aid. Jesus, that's a plaster. Live Aid is happening because it's on a little portable TV screen they have in the van. Bowie's on stage. And you realise he's in the 80s. And all of a sudden you hear his fiance calling Ben. She's, Ben! And he turns around and he's like, who are you? So you immediately find out, because he jumped, he's forgot everything. Then the guy he was in the van with comes running out with two other people. I think it was two other people, maybe just one. They've just robbed somewhere. He's the getaway driver. He doesn't know how to drive stick gear. So the fiance on the little computer starts telling him, and they get away. Cops are after them, they get away. Then she fades away and we're back in our present day, which is 2022. And she wants to know how he jumped so early. How he leaped, I should say, really. Non-binary dude or girl, whatever. Yeah, people freak out now. It's not binary, it's neither. Yeah, it is. Says the most easiest of explanations, which shows the writers and stuff really just didn't want to put much work into explaining stuff. It was, how did he jump? You're not going to believe this. He reprogrammed the entire program we had for quantum leap altogether. That's it. That's her explanation. How he managed to jump. He just reprogrammed it. Oh, okay. With a brand new program. Oh, okay. Ziggy isn't working. For anyone who knows the original show, Ziggy was the mainframe. It was the computer system, and it would give Al all the stuff. Now, this show was meant to have Scott Bakula as Sam in it. He declined to come back for it. I think this episode kind of has half of the script they had with him, and then half of a script that they rewrote, and you'll see why later. She gets back to him and starts explaining what's going on. This part is where it gets a bit stupid. So she's explaining who he is, where he's from, what they do, all this stuff. Explains about Sam Beckett and shows a hologram of Sam. And he's like, okay, so just ask him how to get me home. And she explains, well, we can't because he never made a home. He can't remember anything. So he can't remember who he is, where he's from, who she is, what they do, how he got there, why he even jumped. Yet when she called Ben, he turned around and was like, do I know you? How did you know your name was Ben? If he doesn't know he's this guy, Ben Song, clearly then he doesn't know he's Asian. How did he know something was wrong when he looked in the mirror? You know what I mean? It was just kind of, you could have done that a bit better. You know, you could have had the interaction of, hey, Ben, and her explain stuff and tell him you jumped into somebody else's body before he looked in the mirror. And it's very much going back and forth between him in the 80s, which, by the way, looks nothing like the 80s. I mean, nothing. Everyone walking around has 2020 haircuts. The clothes are just like standard clothes that you'd buy today, just like shirts and jeans. You know, it's so un-80s. It's painful. The only real element that is 100% grade A 80s is the music. They're playing everything from Bowie to Blue Monday. You know, how does it feel, all that stuff. And they just like throw it at you every chance they can get. So he finds out the reason he's there is the guy who he was in the van with gets shot. They're going to do a heist of this jewel, and he's going to get shot and killed that night. His wife, the reason your man is a part of the gang that's going to rob this jewel is he's trying to get money because his wife has cancer and she's going through chemo. They can't afford it. They have a kid who, by the way, the kid is black, yet the two of them are white. And there's no story of that being an adoption or anything like that. It was just like, yeah, quite on the nose there. But he has to help him, but the information they have about him himself isn't much. And then you find out that no, he's not actually this getaway driver. He's actually an undercover cop. So we go back to the future. The Asian woman, the head of security, goes to Ernie Hudson and says like, hey, we found this video clip. Because they're trying to figure out why Ben jumped. And, oh, by the way, his fiance, who is the hologram when she appears to him, hasn't told him that they are engaged. She just says, we know each other. She doesn't tell him, like, yeah, by the way, we're a couple. The security woman And Ernie Hudson, she shows him footage, which is barely visible, of him and a woman. And the one part of the footage she can get clearly is the woman is wearing a military ring, same type, or almost the same type that Ernie Hudson has, that he got in Vietnam. And then she tells him, by the way, you need to fire me. And he's like, why would I fire you? And she's like, well, someone managed to breach our system. He managed to change the programming without me or my people knowing. So, and he's like, yeah, no. Then now, we go back to Ben, and he's trying to convince the other guy, whatever his name was, not to do the heist, that he's going to get shot. And his missus is telling him, look, you can't actually tell him who you actually are, like where you're actually from. So he's just trying to convince him. And of course they find out he's an undercover cop. They don't believe him, but they go on the heist. So he breaks out, goes. And the one thing they know about the heist is it never made national news and stuff. But an explosion happened at it, but nobody was injured at it. The only person that died that night, but not during the robbery, is the guy he's there to help. So he goes and he stops the guy, one of the guys that his job was to block the security door so the security couldn't get out. Because the plan is to knock off the power, so in the confusion they can switch the jewels. Put a fake one on, take the real one. And by the time lights come on, security get out, they'll be none the wiser. So he stops the guy locking that door, and then he stops the girl, the black girl, from going to knock off the power by doing the tango with her and saying, you know, this doesn't have to happen this way, blah, blah, blah. And no one gets injured in the explosion, because the explosion is outside. Everybody's in here in the main hall of the museum. And she says, well, I can change that. And she shoots her gun in the air and everyone goes running out. A bit of chaos happens in there. Can't remember whether they changed the jewel or not. Doesn't matter. He runs outside. They find the car. They can't defuse the bomb, so they go and throw it down a sewer and it explodes. And all is right in the world. They're all fine. The dude didn't die. They arrested the gang or group, whatever. And then he jumps. By the way, he keeps having full-on conversations with his fiancée, who no one can see, obviously, bar him. But he keeps having the conversations like right next to people out loud. You know, like, so what happens to him? Oh, he dies, really. He does the thing that Sam Beckett used to do in the original. He'd ask Al, like, so did we do it? What happened? And Al used to click on Ziggy and read of Ziggy saying, oh, this happened and they went on to live this life and have this kid, blah, blah, blah. This girl just presses one button on the thing and it just looks at and rattles off as in the entire life that the guy who he just saved has. It's like, that's some memory you have. You're not even reading that. And then he says, well, what happens now? She goes, well, now you jump. And he does. The new program that he set up, they think was a way that when he jumps, they can instantly bring him back. So he jumps. She goes back. We're back in the future, our present, trying to lock onto him to pull him back, but they lose him and they can't find him. And they're like, oh no. And then we go to her at their house and he left his phone there with a message on it for her saying he left for a reason and he can't tell her why yet. It will start to come clear. It's just a fucking mystery box. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Is someone from goddamn Bad Robot working in this? Is one of J.J. Abrams' little minions on this show? Goddamn mystery boxes. So she's all, huh? And then we go to him, and he's an astronaut on one of the shuttle launches. I think they said it's the Columbia. Maybe. It's not the Challenger. Challenger is the one that exploded on the way up. So I think it's Columbia, which is the one that I'm pretty sure is the one that disintegrated, coming back down a few, however many years ago at this stage. So that's the episode. Oh, and you do find out security girl, woman, tells Ernie Hudson, shows him an image of Al, and he's like, the only person that could be then is his daughter. And that's where you go, I think they changed, kept half of the original script that they sent to Scott Bakula and changed, because clearly the mission is, we're going to get Sam Beckett and bring him home. Scott Bakula obviously went, I'm not doing the show. And they changed it to say, okay, Al's daughter somehow is involved in. They do mention that Al died, I think they said 2 years ago. It was either 2 years ago or 2 months ago. I think they said 2 years ago. So that's the episode, the first episode. I will check out the second episode and then decide whether or not I keep going with it. It was strange because they kind of rushed things without explaining things. The problem with this series is it's clearly going to be very much split between where he is, where Ben is, and the team in present day. And that's not what the original show used to do at all. At all. It was very rare you were actually in the future. By the way, the future was 1995. The show was made in 89, so you know, it wasn't present day when the show came out. Is it woke? Seeing as they promoted it being super woke with, oh look, we got Asians and blacks and non-binaries. No, not particularly. Not in the sense of them shoving, like, oh look, it's non-binary, and shoving that in your face. The fact, where the wokeness kind of comes in is, oh look, the Asian woman is head of security, and the fiance was meant to be the person that jumped. It wasn't supposed to be Ben at all. In the first place, it was meant to be a woman. But other than that, they don't really kind of beat you over the head with it. Are the characters any good? Ernie Hudson's good. You know, Ernie Hudson's good in everything. Even if whatever he's in is a pile of shit, he's good. It's not like 100% terrible, but you can't help judge it against the originals, particularly if you watched and liked the original like I did. And it's very, very different from the original. And the fact that they jumped him to the 80s and nothing looked like the 80s. That was a big oof. Oh, and the other thing that's really cringy in it is the special effects. It's CW level of effects. Quite bad. So yeah, I'll give the second episode a look. I'll probably review it, and we'll see where we go from there. Other than that, there's nothing else to say. So I'll leave it there for this one. Cheers. Catch you in the next.